Welcome back, dear students, to another session of Biology Important Question Discussions. Today's session, we shall be discussing about a very important topic, the first chapter in biology, that is life processes. So quickly, let us begin. The first question that comes to our mind when I say life process is, what is a life process? As the name itself indicates, life process is any process which is very essential for the maintenance of life. Very important, students, can be asked as a 1-mark question. Life process is a process which is very essential for the maintenance of life. Without such process, life cannot exist. We cannot be alive without these processes. These processes are called as life processes. Now, what are the life processes? We have 4 important ones. First one is a digestion, or what we commonly call as the nutrition. Second one is respiration. Third one is excretion. And last one is the circulation. Now, these are the 4 important life processes that take place in humans or animals for that matter. If I take plants, they do not have circulation, they do not have heart, we shall come into that later, but they have a process called as transportation. So, if it is plants, then nutrition, respiration, excretion and transportation are the 4 life processes. If I take an animal, then digestion, respiration, excretion and circulation are the 4 life processes, students. Today, we shall look into each of these processes and discuss what are the important questions that are going to appear for your exam from each concepts. Let us begin. Firstly, we'll begin with nutrition. So, the first question that comes to your mind is, what is nutrition? The process nutrition is in turn comprised of 3 more processes, students. It is a process of first obtaining the food, second one digesting the food, and thirdly assimilating the undigested food. So I repeat, first we have to obtain the food, second one we digest the food, and finally we assimilate or we excrete, we put out the undigested food. So all these 3 things compose of what we call as nutrition. Now, nutrition is different in plants and animals. So what are the types of nutrition? They are of 2 types, students. First one is the autotrophic nutrition and second one is the heterotrophic nutrition. What is autotrophic nutrition? It is a mode of nutrition in which an organism prepares its own food. Auto means self. So, in this type of nutrition, the organism is preparing its own food and it is eating it. It is not depending on somebody else for food. So, this type of nutrition is called as autotrophic nutrition. Where do we find this nutrition? It is seen in all green plants. So, all green plants come under this type of nutrition, students. Coming to the second type of nutrition, that is heterotrophic nutrition. What is hetero? Hetero means other or different. So, heterotrophic nutrition is a mode of nutrition in which an organism depends on other organism for food. Here the organism prepares its own food, here it depends upon other organism for food. Example, we have us, human beings, we depend on others, we depend on other animals, we depend on plants for food. Other examples are maybe other animals and other category called as saprophytic and parasitic. So heterotrophic, we have 3 types of students, saprophytic, parasitic and holozoic. Very important again. Okay. Now, holozoic, we have already seen what is holozoic nutrition. It is the nutrition that is taking place in us, human beings. The common type of nutrition that we call it as the holozoic nutrition. What is parasitic nutrition? If a question is asked, then it is a mode of heterotrophic nutrition in which an organism feeds on another organism, or it lives on another organism and obtains its food. Example for this, we have lice and ticks. If you have seen your pet animals, maybe dog or cat, sometimes even in our hair, especially girls who have long hair, we have lice on our hair. So these lice, and in case of animals, the ticks, suck the blood from us, and that is the food for them. So that is parasitic nutrition, students. It is obtaining food from the living organisms. We are alive. The dogs and cats are alive, and the lice and ticks are obtaining food from them. Saprophytic, on other hand, is opposite to parasitic. In saprophytic nutrition, an organism obtains food from dead and decaying matter. I repeat, it obtains food from dead and decaying matter. For example, let us take a fungus. Where does fungus grow? Does it grow in clean areas? No. Fungus grows on dead matter, maybe on dead bodies, maybe in a place which is damp, where lot of waste are there. Then in such places we find fungi growing. Another example is mushroom. Mushroom also grows only in regions which is damp and where there is dust or dirt. It doesn't grow in areas which is clean, because these saprophytes obtain food from dead and decaying matter. Very important. So we have the types of nutrition with sub-classification, and an example for each is a must for every student. Let us now proceed to the next part, that is nutrition in plants. Nutrition in plants takes place by a very important and interesting process which is called as photosynthesis. Very important, students, can be asked for 3 marks. Photosynthesis. So what is photosynthesis? In the name you have 2 words. First one is photo, which means light. Then you have synthesis, which means production. So what is photosynthesis? Production of food in the presence of light. We need light for the production of food. Such process is called as photosynthesis. All green plants, without exception, follow this process to obtain their food, students. They are autotrophs. They prepare their own food. Which process do they use? Photosynthesis. What is required for photosynthesis? What are the raw materials of photosynthesis? Very important again, can be asked for 1 mark. Raw materials. We have 4 raw materials, students. First one is sunlight. That is the most important one. Second one is water or H2O. Then we have carbon dioxide, and finally we have something called as chlorophyll pigment. So all these are the raw materials for photosynthesis. Very important. Sunlight from the sun. Water is what we give the plants from the soil. Carbon dioxide comes from us, animals. We breathe out carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is absorbed by the plants during photosynthesis. And finally, chlorophyll pigment. A sub question in this. What is chlorophyll pigment? Where is it found in plants? Chlorophyll pigment is a green colored substance that is present in the chloroplast of the plants. Very important. Chlorophyll is present in an organelle which is called as chloroplast. Chloroplast is present in all the cells, most of the cells of the leaves of plants. that are green in color. So that is also required for photosynthesis. We are done with the definition, we are done with the raw materials. Next, what are the steps involved in photosynthesis? Again can be asked as a separate question. We shall now quickly see the steps. There are 4 steps in photosynthesis, students. Everybody must know this. First step is absorption of sunlight. Absorption of light is the first step. Second step is conversion of light energy into chemical energy. The third step is splitting of water to give hydrogen and oxygen. And the last step is reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrates. So these are the 4 steps in photosynthesis. We shall see one by one. You are supposed to explain each step when this question is asked. First one, absorption of light by the chlorophyll pigment. The light that is coming from the sun is absorbed by the green pigment that is found in the leaves, students. Once this light energy is absorbed, it is converted into another form of energy which is called as the chemical energy. This chemical energy is now used to split water. Water, chemically we call it as H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. H2O is split to give hydrogen and oxygen gases. Finally, the last step is reduction of carbon dioxide to give carbohydrates. Now quickly we'll recall the chemistry concept. What is reduction? Addition of hydrogen or removal of oxygen. In this case, it is addition of hydrogen. When hydrogen is added to carbon dioxide, we get carbohydrates. You have it in the name. Carbohydrates, examples, glucose, sucrose, starch, all these are carbohydrates. And these carbohydrates are the food for the plants. So that is how plants prepare their own food. Once this is done, you are supposed to state the reaction that is involved in photosynthesis. Very important and very easy to remember. So the reaction is 6 molecules of carbon dioxide react with 6 molecules of water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll to give 6 molecules of oxygen and C6H12O6. Very important, students. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide react with 6 molecules of water. Everything is 6 to give 6 molecules of oxygen and C6H12O6. C6H12O6 is nothing but glucose. It can be starch, it can be sucrose, anything for that matter. It is already a balanced reaction. You need not worry about balancing in biology part. So you have only one reaction in biology, that is photosynthesis reaction. Very important. Make sure you practice it. Next, we shall proceed to the next concept, that is nutrition in case of animals. So students, what are the parts involved in the digestive system in human beings? The first we'll only go through the parts and then we'll study about each part, because each part can be asked as a sub-question. So what are the parts that are involved in digestive system in humans? The digestion in humans starts with the first part, that is mouth. Following the mouth is a long pipe that we can see here. It's a muscular pipe, and this pipe is called as the food pipe, also called as the esophagus. Follows the pipe is a large muscular organ, that is the stomach, the most important one. Present above the stomach on the right side is a very large, in fact the largest organ in our body, that is the liver. Present inside the liver is a small part which is called as the gallbladder, whose function we shall see later. Coming down, we have this organ below the stomach which is called the pancreas. Below are two pipes, the smaller pipe and the larger pipe. The smaller pipe is called as the small intestine and the larger one is called as the large intestine. The last part of the large intestine is a bit enlarged portion, and that we call it as the rectum. The ending portion of the rectum is called as the anus. These are the parts of the human digestive system, students. Very important, you should know all the parts. Now this question, the diagram of human digestive system, is not usually asked. Rarely we do ask such questions, but you might get a question, they'll give you a picture of digestive system, they might label some parts and ask you to name those parts. So that is why very important, you should know all the parts where they are present. Next we shall see how digestion takes place in humans and what is the function of each part. The digestion starts with mouth in humans. So we have the mouth. Now the mouth is made up of three parts. Which are they? The teeth, the tongue and salivary glands. Very important. So when I say about mouth, you're supposed to mention all the three parts: teeth, the tongue and the salivary gland. Next, you state what is the function of each part. The teeth is used to bite the food, correct? Teeth is used to bite the food. Tongue is used to mix the food with the liquid which is produced in the mouth. And this liquid is called as saliva. So the saliva is produced by salivary glands, students. We have three pairs of salivary glands. Once this is done, we should know the function of saliva. Very important. What is the function of saliva? It makes the food soft. First one. As you have observed, when you eat, you chew the food, and when the food mixes with the saliva, it becomes soft. This is because of the action of saliva. Secondly, saliva has an enzyme called as amylase. Very important. Amylase is an enzyme that is present in saliva which will convert the carbohydrates present in the food into disaccharides. Or in simple terms, I can say amylase helps in carbohydrate digestion, students. Along with this, saliva also contains an enzyme called lipase. So amylase helps in carb digestion or carbohydrate digestion, while lipase, as the name itself indicates, helps in lipid or fat. Lipid is nothing but fat digestion. So these are the two enzymes that are present in the saliva. Along with this, saliva has one more important function. That is the presence of lysozyme, which is another enzyme. Lysozyme kills bacteria, very important, that is present in the food. So if there is any bacteria present in the food, these bacteria are killed by the lysozymes that are present in the saliva. Please don't get confused. It is not lysosome. Lysosome is the suicide bag of the cell. Something totally different. This is lysozyme. It helps to kill the bacteria. So these are the things that you're supposed to mention in the buccal cavity or the mouth. Following the mouth is a muscular organ, that is esophagus. Now we shall see about esophagus. Now esophagus is known as the food pipe because it connects the mouth to the stomach. It conducts the food from the mouth to the stomach. Esophagus is made up of many muscles, students, like this. So it's made up of many muscles. Now these muscles have a very important function. they will contract and relax as we push the food into the stomach. So when you swallow the food, what happens is the food is pushed into the stomach because of the contraction and relaxation of muscles of esophagus. This process is called as peristalsis. Again, can be asked for 1 mark. Very important. Peristalsis. Peristalsis is nothing but alternate contraction and relaxation of the muscles of esophagus that pushes the food into esophagus, into the stomach. Coming to the next part, that is the stomach. It's a large J shape. The shape of the stomach looks somewhat like a J, letter J. So it's a J-shaped organ. Present inside the stomach is a juice. Very important. Now this juice is called as gastric juice. So we have salivary juice in the mouth and we have gastric juice in the stomach. The gastric juice contains 3 things, students. First one is HCl. Second one is pepsin. And third one is mucus. You have to know the function of each because they can either ask what is the function of gastric juice, or they can ask what is the function of HCl in gastric juice, or what is the role of HCl in digestion. HCl, as you must have studied in chemistry, is hydrochloric acid. Yes, we have an acid inside our stomach and a very strong one too. Now this acid helps in digestion. But most importantly, it helps in the activation of an enzyme which is called as pepsin. You write Pepsi and you add an N. Very easy to remember. So pepsin is an enzyme which helps in the digestion of protein. P for pepsin, P for protein. So pepsin helps in the digestion of protein, students, and for the activation of pepsin, we need HCl in our stomach. Follows the pepsin is the mucus. Now mucus is a sticky or a slimy substance that is present in the stomach. You must be wondering, what is mucus doing in the stomach? Mucus protects the walls of the stomach. The stomach is surrounded by mucus and it protects the walls of the stomach from the acidic effect of HCl. HCl is a very strong acid. pH somewhere between 0.8 to 1. Very strong. So when such strong acid is there in the stomach, we need protection. That protection is given by the mucus. There we have finished about the stomach. Next, we shall proceed into the intestine. The intestine receives 3 types of juice, students, present in the intestine. Now specifically, we are talking about the small intestine. The small intestine contains 3 juices. Please remember this. The small intestine has 3 juices. First one is the juice that is coming from the liver, which we call it as the bile juice. Second one is the pancreatic juice, and third one is the intestinal juice. So we have 3 juices in the stomach. First one, this is the intestine. So in the intestine, we have 3 juices. First one comes from the liver, students, that is nothing but the bile juice. Second one comes from the pancreas, that is the pancreatic juice. And third one, the intestine itself produces a juice, and that we call it as the intestinal juice. Let us start with the bile juice. The bile juice is produced by the liver and it is stored in the gallbladder of the liver. Quickly recall this photo. So we have the gallbladder in the center of the liver. Now this gallbladder will contain bile juice, and this bile juice helps in digestion of fat. Very important, students. Function of bile juice helps in the digestion of fat. Coming to the pancreatic juice. The pancreas produces a juice called pancreatic juice which enters the intestine. Now the pancreatic juice has many enzymes in it. The first enzyme which we are already familiar with is amylase. Amylase is even present in the saliva. It is even present in the pancreas. Amylase. Do you remember what does it help in? Helps in the digestion of carbohydrates. Second one, the pancreas contains lipase. Again, helps in the digestion of lipid. And lastly, we have proteins which are present in the food. So the proteins are digested by enzymes called trypsin and chymotrypsin. Both of them will help in the digestion of protein. So pancreatic juice has 3 enzymes, students, many of which you are studying, 3 to 4. All the 4 enzymes function you must know. Coming to the next one, that is the intestinal juice. Now the intestinal juice is also called as succus entericus. Succus means again secretion and entericus is nothing but intestine. So the secretion of intestine or simply intestinal juice. Now the intestinal juice has many enzymes in it, students, of which important ones you are studying, that is maltase, sucrase and lactase. Need not worry much about this. You have to just know the names maltase, sucrase and lactase. Now for those who are really into this and really want to know the functions of maltase, maltase converts maltose into glucose. Sucrase converts sucrose into glucose and fructose, carbohydrate, students. And lactase converts lactose into glucose and galactose. So at the end, I have 3 things in my intestine. Which are they? Lactose, that is getting converted into glucose. We have fructose and we have galactose. The carbohydrates that we eat are converted into these glucose, fructose and galactose. You eat rice, you eat chapati. All these are carbohydrates. They get digested by these enzymes and ultimately they are converted into glucose, fructose and galactose. So question is, what is the end product of carbohydrate digestion? Name the 3: glucose, fructose, galactose, and you are good to go. Coming to the next, we have protein digestion happening in the intestine, students. Which intestine? Remember always small intestine. So in the small intestine, the proteins are converted into amino acids. Very important. The end product of protein digestion is amino acid. Finally, the bile juice acting on the fat. This we call it as emulsification of fat. So when the fat is emulsified, it is digested by the enzymes and finally we get fatty acid and glycerol. So carbohydrates gives glucose, fructose, galactose, proteins gives amino acid and the fats gives fatty acid and glycerol. So these are the end products of food digestion. Now at the end, we need to know what is digestion. We have studied everything. So if a question is asked, define digestion. It's a process in which complex food substances are broken down into simpler forms. Very important, complex food substances are broken down into simpler forms. With that, we shall finish about digestion. But before we proceed, remember there is an important question again. What is the function of villi? So in the small intestine, we have, if this is the small intestine, we have finger-like projections coming out of the small intestine. These finger-like projections are called as villi, students. The villi will absorb the food from the intestine. So intestine is the site of complete digestion. In intestine, digestion is complete, small intestine. And all the digested food are absorbed by the villi. The undigested food is pushed into the large intestine. It moves like this and finally it is stored in the rectum. And once the rectum is full, the signal goes to the brain. That is how we know we need to use the washroom. The undigested food is thrown out of the body through anus. It is eliminated through the anus. So here you can also remember the function of rectum. It stores the undigested food and the function of villi. With that, we shall end today's session, students. I hope you have understood whatever was done today. Please do practice, make the notes, make the points, and be well prepared. I'll see you all again in the next session. Till then, take care. Have a good day.